The Cleveland Browns got what they wanted. Congratulations, Browns. You got your $600 million. You got your ticket out of Cleveland to Brook Park. And I know Brook Park is still Cleveland, but it's not Cleveland. It's not downtown Cleveland. Steelers play in sort of downtown Pittsburgh. They're right there. They're right at the Golden Triangle. You can see the city from Acrisure Stadium. It's not like they moved 15 minutes away to one of the suburbs. That would be weird. Based on my own experience living in and around Pittsburgh for my entire life, with a very limited exception, it would be weird if the Steelers built their next stadium in Greensburg or Cannonsburg or Bridgeville. That would be weird. Very weird. The Steelers belong in Pittsburgh. The Browns belong in Cleveland. But no. We want to have this fancy new dome stadium. We want to host events all year long. We want to make a lot more money than we make by having a place that can only do 10 football games plus events in the summertime because, when it turns cold, we can't have it. Hey, there's only one Final Four a year. All these places want dome stadiums because they want to host a Final Four. Get in line to host the Final Four, people. And the Super Bowl ain't going to happen in Cleveland. Cleveland's not big enough to host a Super Bowl. It would maybe happen if Kansas City gets a dome. It'll definitely happen if Chicago gets a dome and there's public money supporting it. That's part of the loose trade-off that's done, as we've seen in Minnesota when they get new stadiums. They've had 2 Super Bowls thanks to 2 stadiums, dome stadiums, paid for by the people. Detroit, 2 Super Bowls, 2 stadiums, paid for by the people. Indianapolis got theirs, stadium paid for by the people. Ain't going to happen in Cleveland. It won't. And it's not going to be Cleveland. It's going to be Brook Park. So the Browns got what they wanted. They got the money and they got the ticket out of Cleveland because the Ohio legislature amended the Art Modell law, which used to prevent any relocation of a team in Ohio to anywhere. Elsewhere was the language in the law. Now it only applies if you leave the state. And I still think it'll be hilarious if the Bengals try to move to Columbus one of these days. You can't take that off the bingo card. Knowing what we know of the Bengals, you cannot remove the possibility of the Bengals trying to move to Columbus at some point, or maybe even Dayton. Back to the Browns. There's still an issue here, and the Browns really are kind of putting the cart before the horse. Now, they just assume if the funding mechanism for the $600 million they're getting from the state of Ohio falls through, they'll find something else, because the governor had a different plan than what ultimately was used. He wanted to increase taxes on gambling. The House wanted to do a bond issuance to come up with the $600 million. The Senate's idea was to take the cash from the unclaimed funds fund in Ohio. I was trying to think of a better word. Unclaimed funds fund is what we'll go with. So here's how this works. And, if you've got a bank account that you forgot about, if you've got a check that you didn't cash before it voided, there's all sorts of ways that money ends up as an unclaimed fund. And it's there. And it's in this big pot. And it's a lot of money for most states, probably every state. So what they're basically doing is borrowing against that for the stadium projects. The Bengals are going to benefit from this with the Paycor Stadium renovation. The Browns are going to get their $600 million to build their new stadium. There's apparently some legal issues involved here, because even though there's not going to be the equivalent of a run on the bank and everyone's going to show up and say, well, I want my property, and then the money's going to be gone. Like, it's reasonable to be confident that there will still be $600 million left, even if everyone shows up, or most of the people show up and say, I want my funds. It's still the property of those people. And it becomes a constitutional issue, the taking of someone's property. So I expect litigation. And it's possible the litigation will be viable. It's possible Ohio's going to have to come up with another way to come up with the $600 million. But the Browns assume it'll happen. And you know what? It probably will happen. It probably will. I think the hardest part in this climate is getting a state or local government to put in any money. Once they've committed to putting in money, it's just a question of finding a way to come up with the cash. So if this door gets slammed shut on the Browns, they'll find another door. They'll get their $600 million and they'll open their stadium in Brook Park. They're already pushing. I mean, you could tell they've been waiting. They had all the social media posts ready to go. Everything, celebrating this new era in Browns football, and sign up for your season tickets. And this is going to be great. And this is going to be awesome. It's going to be the best this. It's going to be the best that. They're going to have this. They're going to have that. And it puts pressure on others now. Every time you get a new stadium that is better than X number of stadiums because of this and better than all stadiums because of that, that puts pressure on the people who are in the bottom to try to get a renovated stadium or a new stadium. And it just continues. That's why it seems like every 20 or 30 years, every stadium becomes obsolete. It's a hell of a scam. It's a hell of a racket. And you know how I feel about it. And I've evolved over time. I'm a firm believer that people should pay for their own shit. When you have a team that's worth at least $10 billion and you're making millions every year, you should pay for your own stadium. As I've said before, the people that own the grocery store chains, here it's Kroger, they pay for their own stores. I don't remember seeing stories about Kroger trying to shake down the West Virginia government to pay for their store because it caters to the public. Oh, it caters to the public. It's a great thing for the public. You need to have a grocery store. You better pay us. You better pay us to build this grocery store because you need to have a grocery store. These are private industries, and they rely upon people to show up and give them their money. A football stadium is that. And I still think at the end of the day, and there aren't many privately owned stadiums in the NFL, but wouldn't it be great, especially if you have a dome stadium where you can have events all year long and you own it and you run it and you don't have to get into the issues like what the 49ers have had with Santa Clara ever since they opened Levi's Stadium. You don't need those headaches. You buy it, you own it, you run it, you keep the money, you don't have issues with anyone. It's my factory. It's my store. It's my place of business. So I still am fascinated by the reality. You put one of these things on a ballot and the voters say, hell no. The only way to make it happen is to work through the various waters and channels and minefields of a legislature and a governor, a mayor, a county executive, whatever the case may be. But congratulations, Browns. You got what you want. It still may be a little rocky. And, at the end of the day, the Browns are still the Browns. And their football team isn't as competitive as it needs to be. So it's just going to be weird seeing the Browns in a dome. I know that the Browns haven't benefited from the weather advantage because they've stunk all these years. Do we really think the Browns are going to transform into the greatest show on turf when they go into an indoor stadium? Or are they just going to be a bad team in an indoor stadium? Bad teams stay bad. It all traces to ownership. They had their chance in 2012 when the Hasms bought the team. And I'm sorry, the Hasms are going to be pissed. But your team stinks. And the dysfunction flows from the top down. Like it does with the Jets, like it does with the Dolphins, like it does with the Bengals, even though the Bengals are competitive. See, there are certain teams out there that are successful despite the dysfunction. You're good enough, whether it's players, coaches, whatever, it overcomes the dysfunction. Some would say the Vikings, the 49ers fall in that category. Some would say, many are saying. I haven't reached a final verdict on either or both of those teams. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.